afternoon. It's February 20th at 2:30 p.m. I call the Student Success and Technology Subcommittee to order. So the first business of order is Pledge of Allegiance, which I have a little flag here. So if we could all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which
for
it
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible, and
with
liberty
liberty and justice
for
for
all.
all. That's why I look to my family.
So for anyone watching this now or later, they'll notice on the agenda there is no public comment. This is a very preliminary discussion just to start the ball rolling again. And so there are plans to be many opportunities for future input from the community, parents, students, teachers, staff. And so just for the sake of the meeting in a public space, we won't be monitoring the chat or hand raising. So I do apologize for that. So at the last full school committee meeting, Renee.
I'm so sorry. Do we really just want to do a roll call for just to have Beth in there? So this way then we have it on the recording that Beth is also present. I'm sorry.
Nope. So I'll just do a roll call. Who's present?
Yeah, just so it's noted somewhere that we have it on the recording that now that I've said it, sorry about that, Beth. Just
no, thank you. Yep. So Jessica Degley-Alberti's pregnant. I hope not. I hope not. To God. Sorry. Present. Sorry, I'm gonna drink more coffee. Beth.
That's Mancini's present.
Nice to see everybody. Okay.
And Al and Renee, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you.
So at the last full meeting, Renee had uploaded to the drive, and I believe it's in the zip drive of the documents available from that full meeting earlier in February, which was the cell phones and social media in schools from the Attorney General from Massachusetts. So that document is available to peruse on our agenda website. And it's a really beautiful document to review. There's a lot of great info and resources and things to refer to. And so this is, again, just kind of a preliminary discussion. I believe Al had attended the Attorney General's talk. So if you are open to it, Al, maybe just kind of tell us what happened at that conference, and we can kind of start the conversation from there.
Thank you. Yes. So a couple things. To Jessica's point, we had a meeting on this. Attorney General gave us some information on us. A lot going on in education right now with immigration and the cell phone policy, and so they appreciated that. Really went through this cell phone and social media in schools. I don't think anyone disagrees that we need to have something in here. Many of my colleagues are already trying to I'll use the word attack or try to come at this and figure out the best way to deal with it. I got to tell you, and honestly, is we were given this and we have not seen one other thing since then, right? That was it. So they really sort of put it on the local, sort of like what we did with MCAS, they sort of put it on us just to start having those conversations. I really appreciate you guys wanting to have this meeting early enough because there's a lot to it, right? And we're going to need to get a lot of input. And I'd be really interested even, and I know Renee and I have had a little preliminary meeting talking about this, is even where school committee stands on this, right? There might be some school committee members that feel one way, others that feel another way. So we're going to need to get a lot of input from a lot of people before we bring this in front of school committee and say, here we go. The other thing I can tell you is it's two interesting ways to look at it, right? Because we're going through this committee, but also it will probably go through policy a little bit as well too, because eventually they want us to create a policy that will give some traction for our administrators as well too. And again, the one thing about this is, there's a couple different avenues, right? You can go, I think there's 3 different avenues that you could possibly be looking at what you want to do in your school district. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not really sure how I feel. I hear some parents that say, you know, we need them in schools, right, for emergencies and things like that, and I get that. Others, it is a tool that they're using in classrooms, that teachers have reached out to me and told me that as well too. I appreciate that. But I also know that when I'm in the lunchrooms, there are a lot of kids that are on, you know, on their phones and not engaging in those, you know, those conversations. We see it as adults, even when we're in the supermarket, when you used to be standing in line, you used to engage with the person in front of you and behind you, and now people are just in their phones. So we need to get better at that too. So there's a lot on this. I just appreciate that we're starting this earlier. He really put it at the local level. Here it is. Here's the thing. How do you guys want to handle it? And the last thing I'll say before we open up, across the state, which it's like a bad snow day. Every one of my colleagues is handling it differently, so we're not even in unison how we're handling it, right? So Worcester's handling it one way, you'll probably see West Boylston handling it a different way, so we're not even all handling it the same way. On the other hand, it's not a bad thing, because we're gonna be basing it on our community as well too. What does our community feel about this? How do they feel? So that's good, we have that flexibility as well there, but it's definitely an interesting conversation. I think we need to get a lot of input from a lot of people before we can go to school committee as a subcommittee and say, here's what we're recommending, because it really will be the job of this committee and policy to make a recommendation to the full school committee to decide what direction we want to go in. But no further communication since this. And everything that comes, Joe, I think that comes my way, I always make sure I send to you guys. And Renee will be the point person as well as myself in the district, so she'll be getting a lot of this stuff as well too. Sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sal. Yeah, go ahead, Jess.
I was just going to point out the 3 different types of policies that were in the pamphlet. There's bell to bell, so the cell phones are secured upon entering the building or turned off. Secured, and then off and away is the second type, so they're supposed to be powered off and stored out of sight for the entire school day. And then the third is limited use. Cell phones are expected to be powered off and stored out of sight during instructional time, but can be used during designated times or in specific areas such as lunch or passing periods. So sorry, Renee, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna actually just, that was what I was gonna kind of call out, was those 3 pieces for anyone watching and looking at the material. Those 3 recommendations for the policy start on page 6, and then they have some pretty nice charts that go forward and, you know, draw to mind like the benefits and the drawbacks of each one of those. So I think that's really helpful. Again, this packet, it's big, but there's a lot of good information in here for sure. And also grade level information. You know, this is calling to mind as well, a policy for the district, right? So I think it's important to think about what that may look like at the different grade levels, right? What's that going to look like at the elementary level? You know, and how is that different at the middle school and the high school? Us being a middle high here, is that one policy for the middle high? Right now, we don't have a policy, right? We have a kind of a handbook piece for Tohoto, and middle school is different language than the high school language currently. So, you know, talking with Al, just really initial conversations when he kind of brought forward this to me, I think a couple of weeks prior to the last school committee meeting. Just saying, you know, this is something we need to get ahead of. I'd like you to, you know, help support this and be the point person. You know, I'm happy to do that. But I think it's important, like Al was saying, to know how school committee wants to approach this. Because if they are asking for a policy, right, that is going to be something that has to be approved by school committee. Like, you know, the other policies that I've been involved with so far in this district, we make our recommendations, right? Typically, you know, administration or department heads or things like that kind of make recommendations for policy. But usually having all of the data, and whether that be from specific stakeholders or, you know, being actually from internal documentation data, we like to gather all that beforehand. So I feel like there's a lot to do before we even think about which way we want to go, right? In my opinion, it's really looking at, interviewing those stakeholders, perhaps, taking a look at what data we have already from our cell phone usage within each of the buildings. Because again, I don't want to say that, there's no cell phones happening in elementary school, right? What does that look like? And then what does it look like? This is a policy for students, but if we're having a policy for students, how does that affect staff, right? How, because there's a lot of factors. I know it was brought up at the last school committee meeting as well, just for the health and wellness piece too, right? So just thinking about that overall. So I think, we would love to know how you want to approach this. I've sent out a message to your subcommittee as well as the policy subcommittee, just to say, we're looking for your input as far as next first steps from the school committee's lens. We have ideas about going to those different meetings, right? To those parent PTO meetings, to our staff meetings, our department head meetings. But we also want to make sure that we're asking the questions to get the data that you're looking for in order to bring, those informed pieces to you. So I think that it's really important for us to kind of, to have those first conversations with you. And that's why I asked, just for those preliminary discussions. Happy that it's being recorded, so everything is transparent here, right? But just knowing we want to talk to all of these groups, but we want to make sure we're collecting what you would like to have for this policy to be, in the beginning stages.
And just to add to that, just a point of clarification, right? So we're going to create a policy based on this, right? That we're going to keep as a district. But also then we get down to the details of a student handbook, right? So what does that policy look like at the elementary schools in Boylston and Berlin? And what does it look like at Tohoto? So the policy is going to be the piece that's up here, and then specifics of the handbook. The other part of that, I think I'd love to look at surveys, right? In terms of getting some information. But what we're going to see as we start, hopefully, our process through a strategic plan, like very, very interesting. The last time I did a strategic plan, when they're creating the questions, right? We learned that through COVID. Depending how you ask the question, you can get different responses back. So I want to make sure that we're vetting even the questions surveying that we want, so everyone feels good about it and like what we're trying to get as a response back. So we're going to need some help with that as well too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. So yeah, I'd love to hear what, if you guys have some, initial thoughts on how you would like to start that. And then we'd love to have your help along the way, but I'm happy to organize all those pieces for us.
Right. So I was wondering, have we ever done something like a phone-free Friday or a day during the week where we encourage the kids at Tohoto to put away their phones voluntarily? Like if we were to start doing something on a strongly encouraged basis, like once a week or something like that, we might be able to find certain areas that are the points that people are concerned about, where it's like, well, oh, I couldn't do this at school because I didn't have my phone, or my parent had to call the office and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be because maybe something like that would be a good way to like break the ice into the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's, I think that would be a great suggestion to collect real-time data too. We do have, like refresh day. We have some,
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Emotional days where they are encouraged to not have their phones on them at all. Certainly any kind of formal assessments that we do, MCAS days and things like that, those pieces, the phones have to be, dropped off at, traditionally in their testing room. They can't have their phones. So they have
but they get them back for lunch. And I would rather, it's lunch where I really don't want to see the phones, honestly.
Yep. And I think that data will be interesting, right? So because we have so many students that as a small building as Tohoto, right? It's different in the elementary schools perhaps, that they don't have a group, right? And so they don't know who to talk to, right? And we have created some lunch clubs so that they have a place to go. But not all teachers, are willing to give up that lunch time for that. So that their phone then becomes their social piece for them, not to feel awkward, right? But I think those are my observations, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like we want to make sure we're getting that data perhaps from the students is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, I like that idea.
And the
right? Like,
teachers
let's-
too, like the
let's-
teachers might come up with things that like they're noticing that like are their workarounds where it's like, I know a lot of times at the high school level, when they're using their phones for schoolwork, it's that they're taking a picture of their paper and they're uploading it to Google Classroom. So maybe it's a matter of having like printers that have scanning capabilities in the classroom, or like little, like I have a little portable scanner myself. It just plugs into the side of my, and that's how we upload things, like finding different workarounds and having opportunities to solve the problem before we immediately have everyone come back and say, I need my phone because.
I like it, and even, so my only suggestion, I think we gotta just start small, right? So I love that idea, and maybe it's during lunch periods, there's no phones, right? Start out with that, and then move it to, half a day, and then, get in the
Yeah.
students, like gradual release, right?
Or reward
because-
the kids that are putting their phones in with stag bucks or like whatever, or
Yeah.
and just encourage it
I
strongly.
gotta tell you also, I reached out to our attorney, I'm a little nervous about that, like, who's storing these phones? Like, some of these kids have better phones than we have, right? Like, where are these phones being kept? If we're saying, are they being kept in a locker? At Vetterini, where it used to be, we used to have it in a big basket, right? So you come into the class, everyone had to put it in a basket. But I was fearful then too, if someone grabbed someone else's phone, like, so I just reached out to Sean to say, hey, look, what is our coverage on that as well too? So just to get some input from him that I haven't gotten yet, but I'll share that with you as well.
Yeah, that piece is, I remember in the beginning of the year, for the last couple of summers, when we've started to have these conversations about how we might, be able to go more phone free, that becomes a big obstacle. So if we were to collect data, right, at least in the beginning, to do like, whether it be a phone free Friday or however you want to phrase it, it would probably have to be optional. Just based on where we are right now. Refresh Day is coming up in March, which is a great opportunity. That we would already have, an MCAS is coming up as well. I'm thinking about how we might, with some kind of positive reinforcement, whether it's the stag bucks or, some kind of way to get some buy-in from the students, especially the high school students. Because middle school students technically aren't supposed to have them at all.
Yeah. And we can go down that road, right? Like, I mean, those are the small details, but if you don't have your phone during lunch, everyone gets free ice cream, right? Go, just small rewards like that, right? There's a lot we can do.
Our wellness policy wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's why I'm sharing it with you guys. Also, I haven't had a chance to read Lisa's information. She sent it to me. I want to take a chance to look at all of that as well too. And
Say that again?
Lisa Mayer sent us some stuff on cell phones. Did you guys get that last year? She sent it.
Yeah. So this subcommittee was Lisa Mayer and myself, and so we had discussed this last June, but it was in the midst of the continuing budget struggle. So it kind of got dropped for the time being.
And full disclosure, I haven't had a chance to read that yet, so I'll take a chance to look at that as well too.
I think this could be a great way to start getting some data. This is something that if you feel comfortable with, at least me opening this up to, the other administrators, as how we might get, so I think March would be an opportune time with Refresh Day, with some MCAS starting, to start gathering that and to think about which lunch periods we might be able to, put some incentives out for students, and then have them complete, maybe some questions, some kind of a survey form of, what were, their positives, what were some of the challenges during their day.
And really,
index cards and sorry about
but you could also really acknowledge the kids that are taking the time to include the kids that maybe are struggling at lunch that are not being included. That would be a really good time to incentivize like the people that are reaching out to the kids and including them that maybe would normally sit by themselves with their phone.
Yeah, would you want to put together those survey questions? Like what kind of data you want us to gather from that? Or is that something you would like for us to talk about?
So last year there, or maybe the year before, I don't know, within the last 2.5 years, there was a survey sent out to staff. And so I will have to look back at
Okay.
that. It was surprising. The overall feeling was we don't want to get rid of them.
Teachers?
So, so, you know, and I know like, you know, like, well, Chromebooks have a camera on them, right? So you could hypothetically take a picture of your
You
paper
can't.
that you can't. Okay.
My child, my
She
child was
tried.
without a phone for a year, and it was a real struggle. And it was pointed out to her every time she had to borrow someone's phone. It was, why don't you have your phone? And what did you do? And it becomes an isolating experience because
I
she was
gotta
not
tell you,
able
though,
to use her Chromebook.
one of the things that we need to think about here, and trust me, I've noticed this, is our teachers on their phones as well too, right? So if we're asking our students, we're having a policy with students, we gotta be thinking about our staff as well too, because how does that look, right? That our teachers are on their phones, and I know they're using them as stopwatches, they're doing things with them as well too. I get that, and I'm certainly not asking what you're using your phone for, but you know, if we choose a path where bell to bell, does that include our staff? I'm just throwing things out on the wall and we can see what sticks or not.
I think that's a really good point. Like if we were to gather data, I mean, I would personally love to try this, right? Because I know on my phone, not only are we texting within the building if there's emergencies, right, one another. We're answering emails. We are getting on Google Docs for scheduling, right? We're doing a lot of things in real time that we wouldn't be able to do, which honestly would be fine in a way. But then where does that time come from? Or what are we not able to also be in the cafeteria? You know, those pieces. But, you know, that's in my mind, right? It's not on paper anywhere to say, right? We have phone usage numbers that show up every week for us, right? I get those reports or whatever weekly on the phone. You've been on your phone more or less or whatever, right? But I mean, it would really be an interesting experiment, I think, for as many people that would like to participate as possible, administrators, teachers, you know, to try to gather some data to see what are we using our phones for, you know, daily. How much time are we on them at school? I think it would be an interesting exercise. Certainly for the students, but I do agree to get any buy-in from anything is all about education is about modeling, right? And you know, we have to definitely have that in the equation as well. Yeah.
So in the packet that they sent out, the Attorney General, was talking about community norms. And so that's where the community buy-in, I think, really comes into play. So, you know, not only are we saying we're expecting kids to be cell phone free or, you know, whatever the policy or procedure that we come up, is that we also support that at home as well. And I think that then extends to the staff as well. You know, so they talked about like forming a committee and getting speakers and stuff. So I didn't know how deep we wanted to dive. I know that I think people are eager to give input. And I think that is important. I think that, you know, looking at a few of the policies that were attached at the very end of the document, you know, like Worcester has like the policy that, you know, limited use. But if you look at some of the bell to bells, there was 3 different examples given. 2 of them were the pouches and procedures. They weren't policies actually. And then the third one was a very, very simple policy. If I can try to find it. It was Pioneer Valley. Let's see. Like a trillion tabs opened. So Pioneer Valley, so the Pioneer Valley Regional School District seeks to provide students with a school environment that promotes academic focus, student well-being, and joy. in our shared experience as learners. To help our schools achieve this environment, the school committee directs that students not have access to personal electronic devices during the school day. The school committee further directs the superintendent create guidelines for the use of personal electronic devices at other times, including bus transportation and school-sponsored events. So that was not a very detailed one. And then, the other policies, like I said, it was more of a procedure than a policy. And I thought that was interesting. So kind of go back to your question, Renee, too, like, is this a policy at the school committee level, or is this more procedures? Because right now it's only in the handbooks that talk about cell phones. I went back and was looking and confirmed with Mike that indeed we don't have something specific for cell phones at the school committee policy level.
And I think that's what the, Attorney General's encouraging school committees to have policies. Correct. I mean, seems to be
And
my interpretation of that.
the other part is, I don't want to forget, it's just not cell phones, it's social media in school as
Yeah.
well too, right? There's
Yeah.
another whole piece of this, of that, where I know we're focusing on cell phones to start out with. And I know this is just initially the conversation, but that's a huge piece as well too, that
Yeah.
go hand in hand.
And at one point, but at some point, it would be nice to hear what's in the curriculum or what's being taught, because I did click on to the digital literacy and computer science curriculum guide for the state from DESE, and K through 2 and 3 through 5 has digital citizenship, and then 6 through 8 has digital citizenship along with digital savvy and cyberbullying, and then 9 through 12 only has cyber.org, which I don't know if it's a required class or if that's
Digital literacy they do have requirements up through, in the middle school levels here, but not at the high school
And
levels.
who's teaching that?
That is our computer science, and librarian teacher. Yeah.
So that's usually where it falls, right, underneath the library piece of it, right, how to use it properly, good.
So it would just be nice to, because I know, in our full meeting, Mike's concern was that, kids need to learn how to use them responsibly, which certainly is a huge argument with any type of, how you carry yourself, like shaking one's hand and not having a dead fish, or, making eye contact, or, having a cell phone on the table. They've done studies that the other person thinks you're not going to pay attention to them, even if it's face down. So I agree that that is definitely a concern, and something, our portrait of a graduate, we need to have students can responsibly use their phones or technology. So it would be awesome to hear kind of what they are getting in that kind of at the different levels, if it's being addressed, or if it's, I know there was a ton of different curriculums too, and and that's a little outside of our purview. But it would just be great to hear what is happening, so we have that context.
I think she has a whole drive. I mean, she based it on the state standards, but I'm sure she has her units. I may even be able to pull that up, right from kind of our Atlas, work that the teachers have done. But I will, I can definitely be in touch with Mrs. Charpentier, this week.
I mean, even at the elementary level too, because all kids are on devices, and they have the library tech at the elementary school level too.
Sure.
So looking more and more, right, so this is gonna, our generations, the generations coming up, these kids are growing up, this younger generation right now, right? These kids that are in the younger elementary grades, they're growing up with seeing their families with their phones all the time, right? They're with them for work, they're with them for pleasure, and they're with them for, we see adults not necessarily engaging as much as they should because they're on the phone, sort of like what I started earlier. So it's gonna be difficult to maybe get some. It'll be interesting to see the responsible get some from families as well too, because a lot of them live by their phones, right? Part of their jobs, part of their things, right? We are probably at fault of that ourselves sometimes. But what we control in our school is a whole different thing. So we can teach them, and I think that's really what we should be focusing on, is the right way and the responsible way to be using the phone. No different than we're teaching our kids, and I can say this at the elementary level, you hold the door for the person behind you, right? You shake hands properly, you look at someone's eye. So we can do the best that we can do in the school setting. And hopefully we're gonna instill something that as they get older, you know, they're gonna take these when they go off to colleges and they go off to jobs and things like that, right? So that's important piece of it as well too. I was just in the bank the other day and the woman's on her phone as she's engaging with the teller, but like, seriously, like, are you kidding me here right now, right? But no one says anything to that person, right? No one knows that, but that's not acceptable either. So even if we start teaching our kids that's our job as educators, teach them life skills, that maybe will instill something in them that they'll think more about it, or think second about it before they're sitting at the bank teller and also having a conversation on their phone with their boyfriend or girlfriend as well too. So I think that should be our goal, like what can we control in this school environment?
Yeah.
So we have an admin meeting next Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna put this on, Renee and I will put this on the agenda, just to get some feedback from our admin, what their thoughts and feelings are. I think that would be a good place for us to start. And also be able to get some of the elementary schools, and what does that look like, this curriculum, and who's teaching it at that level, and making sure it is being taken place there. I think that's a start for us to be able to get some information on that as well too. What else? What else do you think is at an early stage?
I know that Lisa Sequoia had reached out to people about like a book group on the anxious generation, so that's not showing up. So that certainly I think overlaps with this conversation. So I didn't know, I think kind of like a community forum, just people can voice their opinions, and because there's the mental health aspect and the social skills aspect, and I didn't know if there's the wait until 8th movement of, people holding off for smartphones until the end of 8th grade. There's also the Let Grow movement too, which is kids are assigned to do independent tasks, which then in place gives them more confidence and less anxiety too. So I think, I was really excited to read the community norms, because it opens up that conversation of almost like the portrait of a graduate, like what are our end goals as a community, as a school, and and I think that and then maybe from that public forum that maybe a committee could be formed, kind of how it was laid out in the packet too. I don't know other people's thoughts on that.
Did you want to first go to smaller groups, go to the PTO meetings that way, rather than opening it? Personally, I sometimes feel, I don't want to say discouraged, but with attendance, right? Unless it's a hot button issue, which this could be, right, for both parties. But depending on the time of day and things like that, I'm wondering if we went to, different groups, in March, and then if the school committee wanted to have it as part of their agenda, and have those public comments. To do a whole forum would be okay. I just personally would like to see it structured, so that it doesn't become so heated one way or the other, and people's personal values are being challenged, because that could really be divisive.
So talk to me about, like, so we did multiple community forums in Hampton and Wilbraham, but we had like a panel, right? So
Yes.
we had people that were, for lack of better wording, experts in their field, right? We had someone, but pros and cons, right? You gotta be able to make sure that you're putting on a panel, a group of people that can answer questions and have knowledge, and it was really helpful. But yet, again, you have to have the pros and cons, people looking at it in both ends, and be able to, we started out the community forum, but they would give their little, piece of how they felt about it. And then they'd open up to questions, and we got a lot of input. So, I'd love to see something like that where if we were going in that direction, Jessica, later on down the road. But who could we get and for panelists, right? Is there a child psychologist? Are there people that we know, right? Again, keeping that pro and con, that could come and present, right? I know for a fact I could get someone from the district attorney's office. They're big at that stuff. So that's one panel member sitting there, but just something to think about. So it's just not someone all just coming in and complaining or giving their side of the opinion.
And I like that idea, and perhaps getting some people to speak from the different school districts that have
Yeah, good.
enacted these policies already,
Good.
right? So if there's a
And
bell to
students,
bell
too.
policy, you know, the student groups and, you know, administrators, teachers, that type of thing, I think would be helpful. You know, there, you know, because there are some examples already here. We already know some communities that have started to approach this a little bit, if they would be willing to either record something, you know, if they weren't be able to be present, but that would be helpful.
Even get like a chairperson of school committee that's done it, like, okay, how did you do this, right?
That would
Like
be-
giving some
yeah.
feedback on that as well too. Like, that's how I envision a forum, like
Mhm.
getting all these
Yeah.
people like together and giving their input as well too.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with the panel. I was thinking, you know, students from these districts and teachers from the districts
Yep.
on, you know, either side of the policies. I was also thinking some speaker or, you know, to kind of, or even just summarize what the Attorney General had sent out for this you know, for this pamphlet, I guess you'd like to say, you know, something as like, why are we talking about this? These are the reasons why. This is kind of the options that we have. And then maybe go into the panel or something like that. I don't know.
And I bet you if we, I mean, I don't think we'll get the Attorney General to come, I appreciate that, but I bet you get someone from our office,
That's what I
right,
was
to do that, right, to see if they're available. We could do that on our end as well too.
Yeah, I think that would be a good next step anyway, whether we present that person at a forum or a school committee meeting or what have you, to get that input. I think that would be beneficial.
Why not? Why not try?
Yeah, we could try, you know, to approach them.
Get someone from the Attorney General.
Yeah.
Get someone from the District Attorney's Office, just
Yeah.
start creating a panel, right?
Yeah.
Of people, get a school, I'm just
Yeah.
throwing stuff out right now, like a school committee that's doing it right now, get someone from
Yeah.
their school committee, and like, how did it happen? You know,
Yeah.
I think Elisa
Yeah.
Mayer, right, the stuff that she gave us.
Yeah.
Right, is there someone knowledgeable in that, maybe it is even Lisa, right, that can share us some of that information as well, so.
Yeah, Lisa Sequoia on the book. Yeah. The Anxious Generation.
So so that book study came to be, the West Boylston had done one on that book. And unfortunately, there was a school committee meeting the night, so I wasn't able to attend, but I got all the slides from that presentation. And I had bought the book, and Lisa's, you know, Sephora said, hey, let's, you know, take a look at doing that here. We wanted to kind of interact that with some PD, but there just hasn't been enough, there's not enough days left as far as having our guidance office, because West Boylston, they actually had the guidance department lead it with their school psych, and they did, you know, and they invited in the community, you know, and I was anxious to kind of see how that would play out for them. But they did send me all of their slides and their participation surveys and things like that. So I do have some data on that, which is nice.
Hey, Beth, any thoughts of what we're talking about, any feedback,
I love the idea of a panelist, doing a panel discussion. I think in terms of like bringing out the community, I think if we were to do the trial run of like a couple days or a lunch or this or that, I think that you would catch people's attention that wouldn't necessarily normally respond, and you might have better attendance one way or the other, positive or minus. I think that if we did something like that, I think you're going to get some parents' attention that would normally not say anything, or maybe only post on Facebook, that might actually come out because they would be like, wait a minute, they're really going to do something. And
so let's, again, we've got an admin meeting next Wednesday, right? Let's talk about this with the admin, make sure, and then why can't we choose a day, right? This will be our day that we choose across this district, right? Just try it out. And then not only just try it out, but then get feedback from people as well too.
you can also do challenges with the kids where the kids could run a challenge where they show their screen usage and like, can we bring it down? Can we like just encourage people to minimize their phone use as voluntarily as possible, and then start engaging them on the conversation? They'll be more engaged in general, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really good. I think we just have to be careful about, again, because there's people on both sides of this, about like, if we encourage people to use their phones less, are they going to be less productive, right? Like I can see how that, right? So I think we need to be careful about what data we're really looking for from these days,
But we're not even
Right.
talking like.
But it's more the
Lunch,
engagement in the
lunchtime.
conversation.
Just lunch.
Lunchtime.
Yeah.
If we just chose
If we
one
just chose
day,
lunch.
March, whatever, you know?
Yep.
We choose a March day, right, and during lunch, right, so we're not getting into all that
Yes.
deep detail
That's
yet.
what I think.
But
would be good.
during lunch, because social engagement, right, that's what we want. During lunch, no one's using their phone. Let's just give it a shot. It's 30 minutes out of their day. Like, what if we just did that and try that out and
Yeah.
then got feedback from kids and said, okay, how'd you feel not having your phone for one period of
Yes.
lunch? And then we as the adults are observing and saying, I noticed, right? Because people on lunch duty get some feedback from them. What did you notice differently? Because we all know what you notice when we're on
It's gonna be
lunch
loud.
duty.
It's gonna be very loud.
Might be. And is that a bad thing? I don't know.
Well,
No.
that is right. So middle school lunch, that first lunch is very loud, right? And everyone thinks that they're misbehaving, but they're not.
It's the makeup
Um,
of the building,
You know,
unfortunately.
it's the makeup of the building. That's part of it, right? It's just that they are loud. Their voices are higher
But
pitched too younger,
even
but.
teaching kids that, right?
Mhm.
Like we used to say at Veteran, we want you to talk, but you're not a Chuck E. Cheese. Pretend you're
Right.
talking at like a nice restaurant with your family, right? So you can engage but we gotta teach people that too, right? How many times you've been in a restaurant and adults are like all of that, I think is part of our job to teach our kids, not just reading and math and all of that, but how to be good, socially competent people as well too.
Well,
Yeah.
even at like the elementary level, I know at BMS, I'm not sure if BES does it, but they do, like, you get a certain number of tickets and you can buy like lunch with a teacher, where you go upstairs and you eat lunch in the classroom with your teacher. And at one point I had said something like, what about like a fine dining lunch where the kids get like their table has a tablecloth on it and they have plates and they get to eat like stuff like that, teaching kids how to interact at lunch, just how to engage with each other and make it fun and like reward them in silly ways that they enjoy.
So we did a thing, right? So it's a similar line. So everyone that's not using their phone during lunch, you got a raffle, right? So you throw everyone's name in a raffle and you draw out 5 kids, right? I'm just freewheeling right here, so tell me to stop anytime. And those 5 kids are gonna get Chick-fil-A for the day. They're gonna get something that's special or a different lunch. We'll keep with the
Wellness
wellness policy. I'm there. I'm being
A gift card to Chick-fil-A.
But keep it to the wellness, right? And getting something different than the school lunch, right? Here's an opportunity for you have a little, or even like a gift card. Here's something you can use, $5 gift cards. Like, just make it more of an incentive to kids as well, too.
Yeah.
I think I let us look at the admin level with principals and see what some ideas, because what they might have, but choosing one day during lunch period to just start the conversation. What do you think
I
about
just
that?
think it will open up a lot of conversation in general.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the curriculum thing at the end of March, the 26th or something like that, was a student showcase or celebration of learning, depending on where you're at. But I think maybe not necessarily like a talk, but like having like a trifold or something, like if we are gonna have, a night of discussion with a panel, it could always advertise there too, because just people that are showing up tend to be a bit more engaged.
If you could help us think about some of the people you might want on that panel, like we'll reach out to the Attorney General's office and the District Attorney's office. But if you guys could help us with some people that we could create, and that takes some work, but that you have a powerful committee or a panel, it's really runs well.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the like Holyoke, Brockton, and Pioneer Valley all have the bell to bell, and then Lowell and Worcester has the more. I feel like what's happening now. What is it
I
called?
think did Clinton do something last year? Does anyone know? I thought my daughter had told me that Clinton had done not pouches, but they had done like no cell phones allowed. They had to be off in a backpack, so that's a nice close town to check in with and see how that's gone.
Yep. You guys want to do
I
this?
could definitely reach out, to some of the area schools, if that's, just time wise, right? If this is something that we may end up needing for the beginning of next school year, right? And it's already March coming. just to start kind of reaching out to get an idea of feedback to bring, back to you. The admin meeting, luckily, we have one coming this week.
But I agree, I think this is, to do it right, you have to put people in place, right? But I think we can do small little wins, right? Like even what Beth said, start the conversation, right? Us taking the phones away for one lunch period, no one's allowed to have their phones on. Like, what does that look like? And that will start conversations with not only kids, but also with families at home as well too. Might be a place
And
to
then when we
start.
do have a policy, it won't feel so abrupt if like
Right.
we start having these conversations and everyone's engaged, whether they choose to really like come to a meeting or not, they're just engaged just by participating in the small things. If it ends up being pushed a little bit down the road, I think people.
Yep. And they're not looking for us right away to get an answer. If you really like, they want us to start these conversations, right? And figure out what's happening with this as well too. But I think I think we got some good first steps like to start with. At least on our end, I know what I'm gonna do is talk to our admin. We'll call the district attorney, we'll call the attorney general's office. Renee is going to reach out to the area schools around us and see what they're doing as well too, and see how that's working. I mean, those are starting points on our end. Do you guys feel like that's okay to start with that?
Yes, definitely.
How about the parent groups? Is that something for March that you would like me to kind of give them this literature? I mean, it's online, but just kind of distribute to them, to the PTO groups at the 3 schools.
And at least to get some information in their hands.
Yeah.
Right, so here it is.
Yeah. I think this packet is amazing. I mean, if you actually read it all.
Very well put together.
Yeah.
So getting this out there, and I think at the admin meeting, we can talk to principals whether they feel, comfortable. Does that look like me coming to those meetings? Or does that mean the principals are putting this in their newsletter as here's something that the district is taking a look at? Maybe, kind of getting some feedback from them initially this week, how they think that would be best supported in their schools. I have gone to several PTO meetings here at Tohoto, and I know a couple of the Berlin members just through social interactions, but you don't want to be off-putting, right? Like I want to make sure that that's something that would be a good use of time.
I think that's a great idea. I think I just can't stress enough, we just gotta go slow on this, because if we go too fast in this,
Then-
you're gonna create,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm not really sure how people in our community feel about this, right?
Right.
So it'll be interesting to gather that information as well too.
So I think, I think depending on how admin feels, certainly, I think this packet doesn't push you in one direction or the other, but it certainly describes the process. So it's kind of like the shot across the bow, so to speak. Like, this is something that's going to have to be decided for our district, and this is the tools that we were given, and we want to create this conversation. So, again, people don't read their emails, but if they do and they happen to click on the link, then they have access to it and can see where, the different arguments for the different policies too.
So the other part, Jess, and I know Nicole's on this, is we're working on a newsletter, right, coming out from the
Yeah.
central office, right? So
That's a good one.
duly noted, right? So what if I add, part of my message is that this is gonna be a conversation that we're gonna be having with school committee and the community, and here's the link to this as well too. So Nicole, part of my message will be the link to this as well too.
I think that's amazing because not much has come from the central office, so I think people may be opening it, hopefully, and I think maybe one barrier to people reading the newsletters is that it's a document that you have to open up, and I don't know, this is just something I've noticed, that like it's one more click to open something up rather than just scrolling through an email.
Or if you preview a few lines of it before they click, they might be more likely to actually click on it.
Okay, so my
But, like-
message, then I can rework my message that maybe this is my message about this. And this way, if you want to read more about this, here's the link for this. So give them a little bit of a teaser to start out with.
I mean,
You haven't overused your email address yet, so like just saying, like people are definitely more likely to open an email from you because it's not a snow day and they're gonna wanna know.
Yep, yep.
Or half day.
Fair enough. Yes, absolutely. Duly noted on that. I already talked to Nicole. We're gonna start doing at least a monthly one. So we're
No, I'm
we're
saying
good.
that as a good thing, not as a bad thing. I'm not
Oh,
like
okay, no,
ribbing
I
you.
know,
No,
but
no.
But I think, how about if I did it that way and put it through my message, and this will be the whole focus of that, the message I'm sending out will be about this. I think it's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
yeah, I mean, it's ultimately up to you what you'd like to do with that
No,
newsletter,
no,
but I
no,
think
no,
this would be, yeah, good content.
Good, good.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Good. Okay. What else? Are we feeling like we're in a good spot to at least start out with now?
So I mean, spring is gonna go quickly by and then we're into summer, which then leads into the fall. And so I don't know if, did the Attorney General say a timeline and when they wanted district
No, I mean,
policy?
I just, I think, Al's feeling and we just never know when it's kind of like what happens with the MCAS for us, right? There's kind of like this mandate and and something gets passed. Or it's left into the local hands. And right now it's definitely the initiative of the Attorney General to really institute this as a bill. But right now it's still in that initial stages for that office as well.
They, and so if you look at page 26, I'm not sure if it reads at 20, but that conclusion piece, it's probably the most vaguest. I always read the very first paragraph and I always read the conclusion,
Yeah.
right? And then I read everything else in between.
Yeah.
But that conclusion is probably one of the, just creating a thoughtful and effective approach to cell phones and social media use. And again, we haven't even talked about social media, right? That whole piece of it as well too. In schools, communities, an essential step towards a positive learning environment and supporting students' mental health and well-being. This toolkit provides a framework for implementing policies, developing community norms, and equipping students with the skills they need to navigate the digital world responsibly. We hope this resource serves as a helpful guide for your school community. Together, we can create communities where children and youth are healthy, safe, and thriving. Thank you for your commitment to this important work. And by the way, I know you all can read. I just read a funny audio piece of it, just so you know. Sorry about that.
No, it's a lovely little 2 paragraphs.
Yep.
So it's very succinct.
So there's
Yeah.
no timeline to answer your question, but I think this is something we should be looking at. And I don't mean to add more to people's things, but every month we should have a scheduled meeting and say, okay, here's what we're moving forward. So it's kept on the front burner for us.
So I guess just a final thought of mine would be if we, building what that group looks like. Is there something that goes out after perhaps your initial kind of push of this literature packet, perhaps before the forum piece, to get initial feedback with a survey, or if people are interested in being a bigger part of the conversation? Do we get an actual committee together, or do we keep the committee small within school committee realm? That's for you guys to really think about. I don't know.
And I know that there are gonna be some admins that are gonna wanna be part of this as well too, although
Yeah.
I can easily see, Cindy wanting to be part of it. I think Sally needs to be part of this as well too, with the curriculum piece of that as well.
Curriculum, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I imagined a bigger group than us, just after reading, the packet. So I don't know if it would be too soon in the email to say, we're creating a study group, or not a study group, but they called it something else.
A focus community group.
Yeah, focus.
I think if we build some more engagement first with these events, you're going to get a more well-rounded group. You don't want the same people that volunteered for the superintendent search committee and this committee. And we want like a really balanced group to get the best information, I feel like. So I think before we form the group, we need to do some outreach and general stuff first, as my opinion.
Because you also gotta be mindful, I don't know how any of you guys feel about, about cell phones. but they're gonna be polar opposites that are gonna wanna sit in that committee as well too, and you want that, right? You
Right.
want people that are gonna come.
Yeah.
You want it
So-
well-rounded, yeah.
That's right,
Yeah.
cause this stuff we don't know about, well, like Lisa, I gotta read all that stuff, like she has a whole piece of that we have to be thinking about as well.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of people within our communities that might be wonderful resources and we just don't know about it. So I maybe, you know, if within your email you say that we would like to have a night to have, you know, have a little education about the topic and then a panel, you know, if you are willing to be, you know, on the panel, or if you feel like you have someone that might be good for this panel, you know, with differing viewpoints, you know, let us know or something like that. I don't know.
I like the idea, Jess. I might, for my first newsletter going out with regarding this, might just have this just sit out there, right? Let people read it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. And then maybe that next, I'm just thinking, maybe that next communication going out, like, okay, now you had a chance to read this. Who would like to be part of, you know, a conversation with this?
Little marination.
Yeah, agreed.
And then maybe to collect that informal, kind of like we're having this kind of informal somewhat meeting today, right? Maybe March is the time that if the admin agree, that I start reaching out to the parent groups, do the, you know, teacher groups, just as a meeting agenda item, just to tell them it's gonna be coming from the superintendent's office.
Yeah.
These are some things that the subcommittee groups wants to put into place, to gather a committee, just to get those, just another way to outreach again.
And how hard would it be, and I'm asking the question, for if we said at our Wednesday meeting with our admin, let's choose a day. Let's one day that everyone needs, you know, one lunches during lunches at the high school, at the elementary school, we'll have to do something. But adults, students, everybody during their lunchtime is either gonna put their phone away or they're gonna engage in good conversations. And I think at the elementary level, because they're not using their phones, we used to do something like conversation starters, right?
Yeah.
So you had at every table when you came in, you had a conversation starter so the fifth grade is sitting there at the calf and like, what's your favorite sport team? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite instrument? What's your favorite song? Or I always call it Mix It Up Monday, right? So you couldn't sit at the same table you sat at every single, this one day during the month, you had to sit somewhere else. So you got to meet Renee, who I never sat with Renee before. And sitting at that table was a conversation starter. Do you have a pet? Right? It was something as simple as that. But how hard would that be to do something like that? If I said that to admin when we talk about this on Wednesday, to do it in March, and just choose one day.
Yeah, they might not have cell phones at the elementary school, but if you teach if they learn these good engagement behaviors in the elementary school, it does feed into them having more social skills in the high school.
And how powerful would that be? We'd have to call it something, but here's the day we're choosing to March, letting everybody know, right? It's not really about cell phones, but it's about good, you know, communication skills.
Engagement, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe a Mix It Up Monday would be better received than a phone-free Friday or something.
Yeah. And again, I go back to, here's our policy that we're trying to create, but what's it look like at the elementary level? What's it look at the middle and high school?
And what is the general goal? And if the general goal is beyond, it's more of the social media and the engagement and the socialization and all of that, then if that's what your end goal is and we can get there, then we get there how we get there.
Yep, little crumbs, are just gonna marinate it, right? A little bit, right? Just, I like it.
Yeah, and I think, like I say, that the Tohoto refresh day is in March anyway, so I think that may be a good opportunity for that lunch time. You know, that would be my suggestion to Tohoto admin, to see if we could do that, and it would go nicely.
So I
with
shouldn't
the
even
day.
be
Although,
saying.
do kids skip refresh day?
What's that?
Do kids skip refresh day?
Not
What's the
normally.
attendance rate?
Yeah, no, not normally, because they usually like the
Okay.
day. Yeah,
So I'm asking this about school committee because I'm still learning, what is refresh day?
it's
What is-
basically a break from your regular academic day. So we have social emotional speakers that come in. We have a kind of a rotating, like the kids still go to their classes, but each teacher is asked to do a different activity to kind of reset, refresh. So some teachers may do
Yoga.
different types of craft, or there might be a yoga, there might be a music class. So you know, it's been in the planning, there's a whole refresh committee, there's somebody that gets a stipend to kind of work this day.
Really?
That comes in, yeah, there's
Have we
outside
done this in the
presenters.
past?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And the purpose of it is to,
kind of reflect, March is, you know, Suicide Awareness Month, there's a lot of pieces. March for us has been a very tough month here, you know, we had a loss of a student last year as well. It tends to be a month that is long for teachers as well. So it's kind of that reset, reboot.
okay,
I don't know how many years they've been doing a year, but I know probably at least the last, I want to say 4 or 5.
okay.
So
So that would be
that would be
a perfect lead into that.
a perfect way to kind of trial it out a bit, because
And
it
so
kinda
think
speaks
about
to that
all the stuff
emotional
we're
piece.
talking about in the association with using social media or cell phones. It would be a natural thing to say, that's the day during lunchtime, you're putting your phones away.
Yeah.
Good, okay. I can.
So
wrap my head
with,
around that.
so with that date in mind, and then trying to go to PTOs, which, you know, certainly I'm happy to come with you too, if you'd like.
Sure.
But I don't know, do we want to set our next meeting for like March 28th, which is the Friday following, or do we want to aim for an evening, so it more engagement with people, or more admins could attend, or maybe not attend? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if we have to meet with, we're supposed to meet, I think, next week at some point with the policy subcommittee. I don't think they've agreed on a date yet.
So, no matter what we do on that part of it, I think they can be separate entities.
Okay.
I think about having that March day and having this event taking place, like, let's just do it, right? Like, it's good stuff, and that will, people might not even know we're even talking about this policy, but yes, we're doing what's right for our kids socially, to engage with them, and adults to engage on this day. So what's the date of the refresh day?
It is the 21st. It's a Friday.
So Cole, we're gonna add that to the agenda for admin.
So just kind of looking at the time, the 26th is the student showcase at Tohoto and the celebration of learning at the elementary schools, or at least BES, I don't know what they're calling it, BMS. So I don't know if we wanted to try to meet before the 26th, but after the 21st, so like Monday or Tuesday, just to I guess my thought is, if we wanted to put up some type of info for people walking into the schools, like, you know, 3 different types of policies that we could consider. I don't know. If we wanted, yeah, get some information on the 26th, if we wanted to meet before the 26th.
I'm open. That Monday or Tuesday is fine with me, if that's your preference.
And the purpose, Jess, would be meet so that we can get something prepared. So when families are walking in to the schools those days, that we have maybe a booth, for lack of a better word, or a table where we have maybe hard copies of the cell phone policy and social media, well, not policy, this thing from the Attorney General.
Packet, yeah.
If you're interested in being part of a committee to talk more about it, sign up.
Yeah, something, I mean, it just seems like a great opportunity to catch a
Sure.
lot of people and engage, you know, maybe a different crowd.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe on the 24th, we could meet briefly in the afternoon, just to touch base on how did the PTO meetings go? How did the refresh day, or the, you know, the
Yep.
cell phone free lunch, or,
And I'll touch base with you, because again, we're thinking, and I know our principals will have no issue with this, but I want to get their feedback from them on that March 21st date, right? So when I meet with them, because that's gonna be a turnaround, we'll have enough time to, but there might be something that we're not even thinking about, that Cindy's gonna say to me, hey, wait a minute, Al, I just want you to think about this, or John might say something like that, so.
yeah,
but
no,
I'll-
totally. I just wanted to throw a date out
Nope,
there, and,
good.
you know, because I think what the BES PTOs tend to be on Thursdays, right? And CPAC is Mondays. I don't remember Tohoto PTO.
Yeah, I think it is, the PTO is usually, it's on a Wednesday in March, the 12th.
Okay, that's why Wednesdays are awful, so that's not on my radar. Okay.
Let's
Do you want
schedule that
to
then.
put something in on that Monday, then 24th?
Pencil something in the afternoon / evening, depending on people's
Yep.
feelings of
op-
matter.
Yeah, I'm open that day right now.
Yeah, me too.
Okay,
Okay.
I know I could realistically after 2 p.m. would be best, or more realistic for me, I guess, because I
So is that a Monday or a Tuesday?
Monday.
Monday.
Okay.
So-
Just be mindful, I might need a second school committee meeting in March. So that would, Nicole, that would
So
be.
that's the
that one or two.
25th. Yeah.
Okay.
25th is one, if needed.
I might need, regarding budget, right? I might need a second school committee meeting for you guys. Okay, good.
Yeah, I don't want to conflict with that.
Nope.
Certainly.
Perfect.
I mean,
Good.
or we could always meet at 4 with that at 5. I don't know how horrible that would be for people, but if you're already there, I don't know.
Are you guys comfortable doing Monday night? On
Monday's
whatever time?
fine with me, but we can be flexible if something comes up in the meantime, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll tentatively schedule, can we do a Zoom one like this, or do we need to feel like we need to be in person?
I mean, if it was Monday, Zoom would be fine with me I mean, if it was Tuesday at 4, then we're hypothetically all there. So whatever works for people, is fine with me.
Beth, can you do a Zoom on
Either's
Monday?
fine, but yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, let's do that. What's the time that's good for you guys?
Do you want to talk to other people and let us know? I cannot do before 2 p.m. on Monday or Tuesdays. That is my only restriction. Sorry.
My daughter got her license. I'm very flexible now.
It's a good and a bad thing when that happens.
Right?
Yeah. It's a wonderful thing though, right? Where they can start taking some of the burden off there.
Yeah, it is
Fun.
nice.
Oh, congrats to the cheerleaders too, Beth. That's
Thank you.
exciting.
Yes.
It was very
Second place,
I
exciting.
saw the trophy today, some of them came in, so they're
Yes.
Congratulations. That and the girls' basketball team.
Yes,
Yeah.
they look good days.
It looks like they might be having their game on Thursday, I think, for the girls' basketball, right? I think that's. what
Is it
said.
gonna be home, do you know?
So Dave, I'm speaking way out of turn here, but Dave said to me that it looks like it might be Thursday and it looks like it's gonna be home. But
Oh,
they haven't confirmed
exciting.
it yet. I guess Matt Picaro has to work with the other athletic directors.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be exciting.
Will there be your district email about that too?
Yes, absolutely,
Awesome. Cool.
absolutely.
So we'll do a Zoom on the 24th. What time, just for your kids, just when them coming home, and does it matter for you to get them organized first, or?
No, I mean, Maggie can get herself my daughter can get herself off the bus. My son is in after school till. I
Okay.
pick him
Can
up.
we do 4 o'clock? Does that work if I throw a time out there?
That's fine.
That's work.
Nicole, does that work on my schedule too? For the most part? Or double book? Okay, beautiful.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
we'll throw an agenda together and this way we can post that as well too. Get that done.
And I can
Sounds good.
start, maybe some of the information, I start gathering, I can do on like some Google Docs. That way I can share the links and you can kind of see, who I'm reaching out to, if I've gotten a response, that kind of thing, just so we can kind of see where we're at.
Good. Good.
That
Okay.
sounds
I can,
great.
yeah, I
And
can
hopefully we'll
see if I can reach out.
we'll give you feedback hopefully
Yeah.
about the March 21st date.
Yep,
Awesome,
awesome,
Great.
I
great.
think it's a good start.
awesome. Well, thank you.
Thanks for meeting over
you.
break, I appreciate it.
So can
Oh,
I
thank
ask you one
you.
question before we end, for the agenda, for that March date, you want, public comment on there? If we're doing it Zoom so people can engage?
I mean, yes, then we just have to know how to
Yep. We'll have
transfer
Joe.
people
Yep.
to do that.
Yeah, we'll have Joe there.
Okay, yeah, the other thought is, to have it in Well, it's hard because 4 o'clock people are working, so maybe Zoom would be better. Yeah. I I don't know, like public comment, I feel like in person's better, but for working individuals might disagree and want to Zoom in for 4 p.m.
And I'll have Joe at that, because he'll start attending these meetings all the time. He's doing a couple things with Tohoto today. But he'll be at these meetings all the time from now on. And I'm speaking on behalf of Joe, but he's gonna actually schedule some meetings for you guys as well too, that he has some things he wants to put on the agenda for you guys as well too. So just be looking for that as well. And so just know that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from him.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, we good?
All right, so
Yeah.
I will adjourn the meeting at 3:40 p.m.